Play the hits, my man. Play the hits. All right, we'll play the hits. Calm down. So, big name, star player, guy you've heard of, high-profile team, demanding a job transfer. Those are the ingredients to above-average talk radio. Assuming that I don't F this up, that's above-average talk radio. So I assume you've heard by now. Pay attention. You're listening to a sports talk radio show at an odd time, so you probably do pay attention, but perhaps not. So we learned that Davante Adams, so offended, so aghast by his coach liking a post that said he might have played his last game in Vegas, Davante Adams would like to exit stage right. Or for that matter, stage left, but he wants out. So Adams, we are told, has informed the Raiders that he prefers a trade. Hit the road, Jack. Yeah, so let the games begin. Now, there are all kinds of content creators who are throwing stuff against the wall, hoping it sticks. Now, Adam Schefter, at one point part of the Fox Sports Radio Association, now part of the Alumni Association, but Adam Schefter tells us that the Raiders are asking teams for a second-round pick. I want a second-round pick and additional compensation for Davante Adams. So let us discuss how should the Raiders handle the Davante Adams public trade request. So I've got Nicolas Cage, Cattle Rattle, and Einstein. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a one-armed bandit, the old slot machine. So from the Raiders side of things, this storyline has been moving this direction at a snail's pace. Very, very reminiscent of the Jim Harbaugh's going back to the NFL storyline, which I preached from the bully pulpit for years, and I had Michigan fans saying he's never going back to the NFL, never going back to the NFL, never going back to the NFL. And all along, he wanted to go to the NFL. He didn't want to stay at Michigan as long as he stayed at Michigan. But people didn't believe me. Well, now he's back in the NFL. And I've been hearing for the last 2 years that Davante Adams did not want to be with the Raiders anymore. He wanted out of there. And you keep hearing it over and over, and typically there's something there. All right, typically there's something there. You find those bees, you're going to find some honey. All right, you're going to find a little bit of honey. And so it's been heading that direction. But Davante Adams was a square peg in a round hole with the Raiders. The only reason he went there, forget all the Disney-type movie bullcrap about how he wanted to be reunited with Mr. Carr, Derek Carr's teammate. It was not about that. He wanted to get out of Green Bay, and he wanted to get paid. The Packers didn't want to pay him. The Raiders were willing to meet the bounty. And so he's like, all right, I'll go to the Raiders. And so they sold this bullcrap romance story about he and his college buddy Derek Carr, but that was not what it was about at all. It was not about that. It was about the money. And if Jacksonville had paid him the money, he would have said, I always wanted to be in Jacksonville, live near Angry Bill. But now that all that's long gone and Derek Carr's hanging out in the bayou, we turn the page, and Davante Adams is now starring in a remake as Nicolas Cage, leaving Las Vegas. I do not believe any prostitutes are involved in this, though. It's not a bad situation for Vegas, though. Get to the point, please. It's not, in terms of how the Raiders have to handle this. Some eagle-eyed observers believe that Adams has started to check out and that he could have played against the Cleveland Browns, that he's milking the injury, numb to the situation. But by the time the Raiders are going to contend, we might all be dead, but assuming they actually figure this out in the next couple of years and are competing for playoff berths consistently, and I think they can still make the playoffs. This year's a wild card team. Call me crazy. But in general, they're not a Super Bowl contender this year. But if they become a big-time player, by that point, Davante Adams will be past his use-by date. He turns 32 on Christmas Eve. Now, in the real world, 32 is very young. But in the sports world, get a little close to the end of your prime, right at the very end of your prime. Now, Davante Adams did do some media, because why not? And I'll give you a little taste of what he said here I believe this is from the Up and Adams show. I don't know what that is, but apparently that's a thing. Anyway, here's Davante Adams, and he was asked whether or not he will ever, hear the question, the answer, whether or not he'll ever put on that uniform in Vegas again.
But a lot of people think you may never play another down as a Raider. What would you say to that?
All I can control is this talk we're having right here, and then after we're done with this, all I can control is the next thing that I'm on to. So I'm gonna get up in a minute and go get a nice workout in, and that's all I can control.
That is if I have my way, I ain't walking on the field again for the Raiders. All right, here's one more from Adams, and he talks about the drama-o-rama. It's like a Vegas show there with him.
Honestly, it's hard to comment on. And I'm sure you would imagine as such, but it's one of those situations where I just keep my head down and keep doing my thing, and let the chips fall where they may as it pertains to that. But there's been no communication with anybody from the team since that became a thing. But it's kind of just like the weekly what's up with Tay thing. It's always some sort of drama. But at the end of the day, 1-7 doesn't create any of it. So people can say what they want, but I'm just chilling, trying to be the model for, not stirring the pot and just locking in and doing what I got to do.
So he was referencing the coach of the Raiders, Antonio Pierce, who liked, from his own verified account for reasons beyond belief, comment that Davante had played his last game or might have played his last snap with the Raiders. All right, so what is this? Let's get back to the point. What is the dream scenario? But there's a lot of cliches. Wasn't there a lot of cliches in that? We might have to bring back the cliche bell. There was a lot of cliches. Anyway, what is the dream scenario for the Raiders? The midseason, I call it the cattle rattle. You bring in, like every Hollywood movie, you bring in that auctioneer for the sweepstakes, unsolicited advice for the silver and black. And I have no skin in the game here, but in order to maximize the payoff, you pay out a little bit of the money. There's ways you can finagle the salary cap to cover more of the cost. But then you also, in addition, have to turn a blind eye to rivalry and bad blood for the greater good. Even if that means doing the unthinkable, the unimaginable, short-term pain for long-term gain, and that would include negotiating a trade with Kansas City and L.A., as in the Chargers. The goal here is to get as many teams bidding against each other, and the obvious ones, the Jets, the Bills, the Steelers, but you have to include the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Saints, all of them. It should be a seller's market. Now, people have pointed out that a similar trade took place in the offseason. Buffalo unloaded a malcontent wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, and they didn't get hardly anything in return. That was like a fifth-round pick is what they got from the Texans. They pretty much just gave him away. But mid-season, there is a shortage of goods available on the market, and that results in pricing power to the team that is willing to trade one of their players. So in this cartoon bubble in my head, the auctioneer hits the gavel to begin the festivities. Like, next up, ladies and gentlemen, this lovely and talented pass catcher, Davante Adams, who can be yours if the price is right. Excellent condition, right? Last year of his prime. Let's start the bidding. Shall I start the bidding at a second-round pick? Yes, thank you. Do I hear a second and a third? All right, yes, you. Thank you, good sir there. Will you give me more? How about a pair of second-round picks? All right, pair of second-round picks going once, a pair of second-round picks for the man in that Arrowhead hat. Wait, do I hear a first-round pick? A first-round pick it is. Now a first-round pick and a conditional fourth-round pick from the man with the green ribbon on his jacket. First and a conditional fourth-round pick. Going once, going twice. Sold. Boom. There you go. That's how it would sound if I was an auctioneer trading Davante Adams. Now, the last word here, from Davante's perspective, how much does he have left in the tank? Well, it depends on which side of the aisle you're on. Davante and his agent will say, he's great. 32 coming up here in December, but Adams he's doing this high wire act. He's been productive, and the age demons are lurking and all that, but you put him back together. You put him back together with Aaron Rodgers, and it's like peanut butter and jelly all over again. Right? For the Raiders, it's better to get rid of him now a year too early rather than a year too late, especially a guy who Is he on that list of players that made a business decision, which Antonio Pierce talked about? And yet, it was Einstein who taught us, the one day I paid attention when I was in school, it's all relative. From the other side, right? It's all relative. And so all you have to do, again, is match up, play the match game. Davante Adams on a team that's all horny to win a Lombardi and think this is the year to do it. The Chiefs, Kansas City, if they're Davante Adams away from 3 in a row, and in the modern era, that's never happened, right? They can already trump what the Patriots did by winning 3 in a row, and that's the missing jigsaw puzzle piece. You're telling me you wouldn't trade a first-round pick and a future third-round pick to get Davante Adams for 10 games of this year, whatever it ends up being? But you look, A.J. Brown went to Philly, Christian McCaffrey with the 49ers, playmakers. Their teams got to the Super Bowl. Odell Beckham pushed the Rams to the Super Bowl. They won. He got hurt in that game. So we are in the era where that one playmaker pushes you over the edge. We're at that part of the NFL cycle.